Welcome back, folks, to the Sick Podcast, Recruits Draftcast. Lots going on this week. We had a high-level prospect traded. Lots of drama with that. We'll get into it. As always, we'll get to Rocco's Riser of the Week, our Prospect of the Week, and our Habs Prospect of the Month this time around. So let's get to it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Recruits Draftcast.
And with the first overall selection in the 2023 NHL Draft, the Chicago Blackhawks are very proud to select from the Regina Pats, the Western Hockey League, Connor Bedard.
The sickest NHL draft and scouting podcast. It's gonna be sick.
That's right. I am your host, producer Shayne. We are joined, as always, by the wonderful Grant McCagg and the more wonderfuler Rocco Zappia. Sorry, Grant. Had to do it. I hope you guys are doing better than the guy in the intro there, Connor Bedard, who is out 6 to 8 weeks with a messed up jaw. Just got surgery as we're filming today. But how we feeling, fellas?
Well, I have him in my pool, and I was in first place, but I've got Heiskanen, Hughes, Bedard, a couple other guys, and all out in the same week. Just boom. So I'm not happy. I'm slipping down the ranks.
That happens. Yeah.
Well, don't get me going on a fantasy hockey topic, or we're gonna be here all day.
Right there with you. I also have Hughes and Heiskanen, so losing them in the same night that did not feel very good. But hopefully everybody watching is having a better time in fantasy than we are. Even though Grant, we're still first, right? Like, you're first, I'm still first.
Yeah.
Let's hope for the best. Let's hope they come back soon. But injuries not so good right now. And listen, guys, the big news this week, right? The Cutter Gauthier trade. Cutter Gauthier going to Anaheim. Jamie Drysdale and a second-round pick going back to Philly. When it happened, I think the word that can sum it up is confusion. Like, why would you trade this guy who just lit up the World Juniors? He's going to be, a star in the league, power forward, top 5 pick. And now we're hearing tidbits of information coming from both sides. Oh, Flyers didn't want to sign him. Oh, Cutter Gauthier didn't want to show up. We're starting to paint a picture here, but we don't know all the details yet. So what do we think first and foremost about the return? Do we think Jamie Drysdale in a second is enough to compensate for Cutter Gauthier?
Go ahead, Rocco.
Yeah, I mean, for me, in the position that Philadelphia is in, when your hand is forced, to be able to get back a very high quality young player. And Jamie Drysdale, he's had his injury problems, and he's a young player who's had some inconsistencies. But when he has looked good, he's looked very good. And to get him a right-handed defenseman, they're hard to come by, and you get a second on top of it as a bit of a sweetener for a guy who hasn't played a game in the league yet. And I get that he's highly regarded, and he's a big power forward. He's got all the potential in the world. Look, I was a massive fan of Cutter Gauthier in his draft year. I really, really liked him. But this kind of thing here, and if there's a legitimate reason for not wanting to play in Philadelphia, and I forget which analyst said it best, but be a man and sit down and talk to the team about it. Mm-hmm. And to me, the way it was handled was very immature. It spoke to me of someone who feels entitled and who's getting poor advice from the people who are paid to guide this young man. And I think it starts off his tenure in the league on a sour note. That's not the type of attitude that embodies a winning and a team culture. And I think given the fact that if Philadelphia doesn't pull a deal, he could in theory walk for nothing. Now, luckily he's a highly enough touted player that there's going to be lots of interest there, so they're not going to eat it really on the return as much as they could have. And I think all things considered, they did really, really well here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, Drysdale's 6th overall pick, and he's only a couple of years older, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, he's got a decade of running Philadelphia's power play. in return for a guy that Danny Briere, I found interestingly, kept calling a left winger, which I found kind of interesting, and it's funny, like, he may play the wing in Anaheim because, I mean, he's not taking Mason McTavish's spot. I think he's the consummate centerman for that team. Does everything that a center should do defensively, face-offs, everything. And Leo Carlsson, I mean, they brought him in and started playing him center from day one. And I mean, he's fooled me. I didn't think that he was ready to play center because he didn't look like he was ready to play wing defensively at the NHL level, I thought, based on last year. But he came in and he was playing center right away. So I think certainly they're not going to have one of those three on the third line. I don't care. They're all three of them are going to be in their top six. Yeah. And I mean, personally, I think it may end up being Carlsson on the wing eventually. But the possibility also exists that he plays on the wing. So when you look at intrinsic value of a player, even if Gauthier ends up being elite, they're not their top winger, is that really bring you more value than if Drysdale is the power play quarterback, plays 20 plus minutes a game in Philadelphia on the first pairing, right defense? I don't think Philadelphia could have done any better of a return, considering that their hands were, I mean, as we've discovered, I think it's been 6 months that other teams have known about this.
Yeah.
To their credit, the information didn't leak out on it. And I think that in part is the respect, how much respect Danny Briere has in the, in NHL circles, and that they kept it quiet. Obviously the hot rumor, and I've had it, somewhat confirmed by people, was that, and Briere said that they even started looking at deals at the draft, which only helps to verify that, they did try to get the 5th pick from the Canadians for Gauthier, and that Canadians said no, which is an interesting side angle to it, right? But I mean, it attests a bit to Gauthier's character, or him to be pulling an Eric Lind. The last guy to do something like this was a high pick was probably Lindros, right? Which also brings some irony to it with,
Philly, brings that full circle.
Well, Philly fans think it's just horrible that a player could hold the team hostage, yet they were the recipients of the most famous, the most famous guy to hold out from a team that there was in Lindros. So, yeah, I think it was. I don't think Philly could have done any better than they did, considering all the circumstances. I think Drysdale's a heck of a defenseman, and the injuries have set him back a bit, and that's why he's been maybe a little inconsistent. But we haven't seen him play enough yet to, and he's still young, so he's going to get better. He's going to be given that opportunity in Philly. Tortorella, I think, by all accounts, loves him. So, that's important. And
if you can win over Torch, you're doing something right, especially as a more offensive defenseman there.
Yeah,
exactly. What do you think, Shayne?
Well, the situation is still developing, so it's kind of hard to pick a side. But in terms of the return, you can't deny that Drysdale in a second is fantastic for Philly. Like that's really good value. We're hearing that Philly didn't want to sign Gauthier when Gauthier wanted to be signed, and then that created this kind of misunderstanding or something that, they didn't want him, and now he didn't want them. And it seems to me like it's just a complete misunderstanding that evolved to something that boiled over, and it's just really weird. It's strange. It's something we're not used to. I mean, when you talk about Lindros, I remember seeing something about the Quebec owner, the Quebec Nordiques owner, talking smack about his mom, and that's why he wanted out. Like, some situation like that I can understand. I wouldn't want to play for an owner who talks badly about my mom, but then again, this situation's not remotely the same. It just seems to me like it's a big misunderstanding that's just gotten taken to the next level. But the deal is done. It happened. And to your point, Grant, the fact that the Habs passed on Gauthier for the 5th, and apparently Philly was going to take Reinbacher, and now we also heard that Nashville was offering Askarov and the pick that ended up being Matthew Wood for the 5th, and they were going to take Reinbacher. If you're a Habs fan and you're hearing this, that's kind of confirming that, Kent Hughes wasn't the only one who was thinking, okay, Reinbacher is the pick at 5. Most teams were. So, if he values him that much to pass down these 2 trades, that's pretty big for Reinbacher. But then, I don't mind passing on the Gauthier trade, to be honest with you. I was on with Tony yesterday, and Georges Larac was saying they should have done it. They need that big forward, the guy will play top 6. But, a right-handed defenseman who will fit perfectly with Lane Hutson, who we spoke to just recently. If you haven't checked it out, do yourself a favor, go watch that episode. It was fantastic. And we do speak a bit about David there. But I think the fit is perfect with Reinbacher. I'm pleased with that. And I think the fit with Anaheim is perfect with Gauthier. I think he'll fit perfectly. The age group is right there. They will steamroll the league in a few years. It's going to be disgusting.
Well, just getting back to they need the big forward. They got Slavkovsky, but I mean, you have to. You're playing chess when you're GM in the league. You don't just look at one move; you look at multiple moves. Look, Anaheim, for instance, they had Minchikov, they had Fowler, they had Lacombe, they had they were loaded with young defensemen.
Luno, Warren, Zellweger.
No. What I'm getting at is they picked Minchikov, right? They already had picked Lacombe the year before. They had picked Drysdale. They were just loaded, especially when they got Minchikov. Second round, they still went out and they took who they thought were the best players available in Luno and Warren. And as we've discovered, they were great picks where they were picked. Yep. And why did they do that? Why, when they had so many other defensemen in the stable? Well, you can deal other defensemen. Mm-hmm. It's all about assets. Just like Montreal, while they're loaded, why did they pick up Reinbacher? Because another guy can get dealt. And what happened with Anaheim? They turn around and trade Drysdale. Oh, Zellweger's the other guy. They love Zellweger. They think Zellweger can replace Drysdale. And they've got all these other Minchikov and all these other defensemen they could afford to get rid of. And what did they get in return? A big top 5 young forward. Mm-hmm. Well, who's to say Montreal doesn't trade a prime defenseman? They're going to have to, because they don't have room for all these guys. At least one defenseman that's very valuable is going to get traded for what Georges Larac is saying, a big forward that can help the team. You watch, it's going to happen because they have those assets. Defensemen are prime assets. You see them get traded for practically for more than any other position. So it's just, you can't just look at the position and say, well, you're making other moves. The roster never looks like it did, when you make your draft picks. It's always going to change. It's going to evolve. Another prime example is Nashville. Mm-hmm. They had Ekholm. They had Ellis. They had Weber. They had Josie. They had the 4th overall pick, and they took Seth Jones. And everyone's saying, why would you do that? Because you can move guys. And what they ended up doing was move Jones. Mm-hmm. And they got Ryan Johansson, who filled their number 1 center spot. He wasn't a high-end number 1 center, but 6'4" center, top 4 pick. So you just got to be patient. Realize that NHL teams are picking. It's all about getting the best asset you can get, because you can make trades later to help your team in other positions.
Yeah. And Grant, I mean, the Anaheim Ducks are right back in the trade discussions with Trevor Zegras apparently now.
There you
now
go.
He's on the market, right? So you're talking about trading a defenseman for a high-end forward. We could see it in a matter of days.
Right.
So
and I, it was funny because I mean, I watched Gauthier at the World Juniors, and I mean, it's only speculation and seeing him, wave, but he came across as a bit of a wheel. And I talked to somebody that knows him pretty well after, and he said, yeah, he's, he thinks pretty highly of himself. And Zegras is kind of the same, they're cut from the same cloth, And I thought, geez, hope those two don't go through a doorway at the same time, because they may not fit through, right? Pretty swelled heads on those two. But anyways, so I'm thinking, like, is it going to work to have two guys like that on the same? And it may not be, they'll end up trading Zegras, getting another character guy in there. I bet you that's what they end up doing. And because you don't want too many guys that are, a little, I don't know if it's prima donna is the right word, but just that type of player that's maybe a little selfish at times. And I mean, I'm speculating on that. I don't know these guys, that well, but just from what you hear from NHL guys that I know and trust, it may not be the best fit in the dressing room character-wise to have both these guys on the team. So it didn't surprise me that right after you heard that Zegras might be on the block, because I think that they might have to look at that dynamic and maybe get rid of him.
Yeah. Well, again, that's pretty exciting stuff. If you're a hockey fan, the trades are just always awesome. But and ending with this situation, I just want to highlight that when the trade happened and the information that we now have was not released yet, Cutter Gauthier was receiving death threats. I mean, the kid is 19 years old, right? You're going based off of rumors that, okay, he's high maintenance, didn't want to show up, he gave up on the team and all that. Is it really enough to warrant you wishing death upon a kid? And to push it even further, Kevin Hayes was painted in a corner saying that he's the reason why Cutter didn't want to come to Philly. And now he's getting death threats and people saying, I wish your family dies. And I'm happy your brother died. Listen, I don't want to generalize Philly fans. Not all of them are bad. In fact, our boss is a Flyers fan and he's one of my favorite person ever. Right. But man, that's absurd. That is absurd. Wishing death on a 19-year-old. Get a life. Anyways,
it's only hockey,
that's just the internet for you, and everyone is tough behind a keyboard, and I think even giving them any attention by bringing that stuff up, we don't need to feed into it. You don't give those kind of people attention; they don't deserve any sort of platform. Because, like you said, this is a teenage kid, and that's a joke.
It's absurd, and I'm over it. Be better.
But that's the internet. So that's the internet.
It's really unfortunate, but yeah, like you said, you kind of have to live with it. Let's just move on to more positive things. Rocco's Riser has become a fan favorite segment, so let's keep it rolling. Who is your guy this week?
We've got Jack Pridham, right winger for the West Kelowna Warriors, but I'm not starting until I hear my music. No, I'm just kidding. There we go.
I was wondering where it was. Okay.
We got Jack Pridham, right wing, West Kelowna Warriors out of the BCHL, the independent BCHL. He comes in at 6'2", $165. He's committed to BU next season, so right away I like that, going to a strong program. They obviously are very successful, so if they want to bring him in, that speaks well right off the bat for me. He's got right around a point a game, 30 points in 32 games so far. Started slow. He's riding an 11-game heater right now. He's got 17 points in his last 11 games, and he's really, really coming on offensively, and he's really, really starting to take offensive control for his team. Right away, his skating stands out. He's a very, very smooth and fluid skater. To me, this might be his best overall singular attribute. You notice it right away in all three zones, honestly. He's got really good quickness, acceleration. He has a lateral mobility to go with it. He's not just a straight up and down skater. He's quite shifty, quite good on his edges as well. He plays with a lot of pace. He's not really ever, I don't find, floating around there too often. If there's a loose puck, he's really hard after it. He uses his quickness to get to any puck that he thinks he has a chance at, which I really like. He shows some very good vision as a playmaker as well. He brings that to the offensive table. Now, he's quite confident in his playmaking ability, almost a little bit too confident sometimes for me, where he may kind of force a play and be a little bit careless with the puck. But he's a teenager out there trying to make skilled plays, and you can coach those kind of things out of him because the plays he does make are quite good. I like his effort level on his back checks. He's not out there as a passenger. You can see it in this clip here, he's trying hard to catch up to guys if the puck's going the other way, which I like. There's nothing that drives me more nuts than a skilled winger just out there floating around at the blue line or the neutral zone looking to make a break. So he's not doing that, so you like that right away. He has a good stick defensively and a good hustle, like I mentioned. So that good stick, he is able to turn pucks over. He gets a few chances here in these clips where he's able to create a counterattack opportunity for himself. Good awareness in the offensive zone as a shooter. He doesn't really stand still a lot. He's always kind of one push, slide, glide, trying to find little soft spots in the defense where he can get open and set up for a one-time opportunity. Or another quick play. He can really shoot the puck when he has a chance. He's got quite a quick release. Goal scorer shot, it looks like to me. There's two goals. The first clip was a goal. He scores another one later on. But he does have a goal scorer's release and a goal scorer's mentality. He puts pucks in openings inside the post, tough spots. He knows where to shoot on goalies. I find that he has almost equal ability, equal danger as both a playmaker and a shooter. So he's keeping defensemen honest. They can't key in on him too tight to block the shot, or it's going to leave a man open. And if the defenseman plays the pass, he's more than capable of ripping it as well. So you have to kind of be honest with him when you're defending him, which makes it more difficult. In terms of improvements, like I said, he's 6'2", but depending where you look, I've seen him between 165, 170 listed. So he's going to need to put on quite a bit of weight there in order to get heavier and play against bigger bodied NHL players. You find even in this junior level, while he does, he's very willing to engage in the dirty areas and board battles. And he has some success, but against bigger, stronger players, he admittedly does have a little bit of harder time. But he's willing to go there, and he's a teenager. He's got lots of time to put on the weight, but he does need to do that.
That's very impressive. He played last year with Dean Letourneau, interestingly enough, in St. Andrews. So, I mean, to make the jump from that to, the BCHL, he started out the year, his first 15 games, he had 9 points, I believe.
11.
He hit.
Yeah, he 13 in his first 21 or something.
15 points in his first 23. And 15 points in his last 9. So, his just on those, based on those clips alone, he looks like a potential first rounder to me.
Yeah, for me. And then one other thing I want to point out, because you do want to, you can't just be all talking about their good things. There are a couple times, and you don't get to see their play truly away from the puck as much on video, but there were a couple instances where I did see all of a sudden there's a long stretch pass coming to a guy. He's hanging in the neutral zone. He does sometimes look to get a jump, but he doesn't do it too much. He picks his spots pretty well, I find, for the most part. And for me, like you said, Grant, there's a ton of offensive upside there. He has some true talent and some ability. I see the ability for him to be able to play on a scoring line at the NHL level, to play on a power play. And if he's not able to quite crack himself into a true top 6 or a true first power play type of guy, because he is 6'2" and because he is so damn fast, that lends itself the opportunity to adjust your game a little bit. You see a ton of guys who develop into really good third line jackknife speedster type players. And I think because he has that height and he has that speed, if there's a willingness to change his game, if he needs to, I'm not saying he will, but if he does need to change his game, he has the tools there where I think he does present a little bit of a higher floor than some of the other offensive wingers that you might see grouped in around that same range as him that might not have either the size or the skating ability to play maybe a different role. They might be more top six or bust, whereas I do see him projecting into a scoring line player. But if he doesn't, there's always room for a speed demon on a team.
Well, he going into the year, there were guys like a lot of scouts saw St. Andrews last year because they had Jonathan Castagna, who ended up going, I believe, the third round. But they saw the kids, Letourneau and this guy both. Scouts were telling me that they have first round upside, and his slow start of the year. I think I started him out at the end of the first round for recruits, dropped him back a bit because he wasn't producing, and his defense does need work. But I mean, producing like that and what I seen on video and what you've told me, the speed, the size speed combo is always so attractive, right? And if you add in you show the vision, the creativity, the production, we're going to be moving him back up into the end of the first round, I think. You don't disagree with that, Rocco?
No, for me, I was going to say right now I have him just outside the first, but just right in that group of guys that we kind of have to figure out. Where he's not a consensus first rounder yet, but he sure as shit has the ability to become one with a strong second half. I've got him comfortably in right around 40-ish for me, so a very strong second rounder with absolutely the potential. He has all the skill and talent to be a first round pick. I don't think there's any doubt about that. If you have a chance to watch some of his other videos, he's really, really slick in the offensive zone, and he can give it to you any way you want it as a playmaker or a shooter. He's a guy, and I feel like I say this often, maybe it's just we featured guys on weaker teams or maybe not in quite as strong of a league, but I would love to see him. I would love to see him with a really highly skilled centerman who can find him when he does get into these soft spots in the defense and really let his one-timer go. Like if you get him paired with a centerman who can be a very strong playmaker type who looks for him and can keep up with that speed, I think that he could be a very, very dangerous player where it's in a sense where down the road you see the numbers he starts putting up and you're like, why'd he get picked there?
Well, if Ryan Green sticks around BU again for another year, I don't think Celebrini will be there next year, but
I can't imagine.
No, sure.
Maybe him and Green, and then the Hutson brothers on the fence if Lane doesn't go pro. But I'd be afraid that he's likely going to do the same. But yeah, he'll be going to a program where he'll get that support. And at least 3 years, right, to put on the requisite weight that he needs, round out his defensive game. He's based on what I've seen of guys that are at the end of the first round, like Ryder Ritchie. There's parts to his game that you have to find more attractive than Ritchie, just the fact that he's got the size, right? So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have some discussions about this, but for now, we're moving him up. We're moving him up into the end of the first round, and
and for me, he belongs. Ryder Ritchie is a good name to point out because there's a group of wingers with some offensive upside right around there. Ritchie comes to mind. Basha Parasak, Seneke, yeah, he could be working his way down into that group. But this guy belongs in that conversation. He has as much talent as any of them. And the thing with his defensive play, I think it's a matter for him of just deciding to focus on it, because when it comes to defensive issues, it's one of two places. It's either you're just a young guy who has always been so offensive, the best player on the ice sort of thing. You just haven't figured that out yet. or it's a situation where it's an effort level and a character issue. And for me, based on the way he plays, it's not that. I don't see an issue. The way that he jumps on loose pucks, like he's really on them. He has no problem engaging physically, even as a skinny kid. And those things to me make me believe that he's going to figure out the other stuff. His vision, his hockey sense is so good offensively, and he has the effort level in the other place of the ice. He just doesn't always use it quite perfectly. But he's a teenage kid playing junior. He's going to have holes in his game. I don't have long-term concerns about his willingness to play the right way. I just think he needs to be taught and focus on it a little bit. And like Grant said, he's got at least 3 seasons. This is not a guy who's going to make the jump to the NHL at 18, 19, or 20 years old. He needs to add at least 30 pounds before he's ready to do that. So that will take time. But the nice thing is that's going to give him time to develop. And hopefully when he is ready, he could be a pretty exciting, fully finished product.
Fantastic. Jack Pridham is Rocco's Riser of the Week. Rocco, we always appreciate your insight, my friend. We'll get you. We'll let you get back to what's that?
To cue the music there.
Yeah, that's it. We'll let you get back to selling the houses.
Good seeing you, Rocco.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
Rocco Zappia, always a pleasure chatting with him. Grant, we're moving to Prospect of the Week, which belongs to Logan Sawyer, who's been putting up some pretty ridiculous numbers. Let's have a look.
Yeah, we're sticking with the Junior A level, only this time it's out of the AJHL. This goes back to December 10th. Now, I did a bunch of clips of him in the World Junior A Challenge where he played against Sweden. And to me, he was by far the best player in this game. Now, Sweden had a squad that likely has about 10 or 12 future draft picks, including several in the top 90. And he outplayed all of them. So this is really my first glimpse at Sawyer. And he really impressed. He was, he scored a goal. He probably should have had 2 or 3. Like here's another chance he had. But throughout the game, he was dangerous. And he's not, you compare him to who you just saw, right? Similar size. Has to get stronger, just like Pridham. But he's not as quick a skater as Pridham, obviously, but he skates decently enough. He's got a smooth stride. Once he puts on the requisite muscle that he'll need, I think he'll be a fine skater. He's pretty smooth. He'll be decent. He'll have decent straight ahead speed. I just loved his motor in this game. He got to a lot of pucks. He made a lot of great plays. He's got good hands, and which we'll demonstrate in the second video clip that we have where he played in the AJHL, where he dangled through everybody. But you'll notice in this game that he just seemed to have the puck and was creating offense throughout. Now, Connolly was the talk of the World Junior A Challenge, but Sawyer, this game at least, I think was the second best performance outside of what we saw from Connolly in those 2 games. In talking to scouts, he also had one other good game against the U.S. where he scored 2 goals. But then in the other 3 contests, he was just average is what I heard from NHL guys. So there's still some inconsistency in his game, it's fair to say. But I always like to say that when you see the best from a player is more important than when you see, where he doesn't have his best game, because it could be for a lot of factors. This here just showed you what his upside is. And that's, to be a good power forward type that can play a middle line role if he fills out and reaches his potential. If he's got that kind of upside for the NHL, that makes him a top 90 pick at some point. Right now, I've got him slotted as a 50 to 80 guy. So he's just outside of the second round at this point, but he's got the upside to be a second rounder, I think, if the production continues that we've been seeing. But you can see here, Shayne, like he, how many chances did he have in this game? Like he, with a bit of luck and a bit of finish from teammates, he might have had 4 or 5 points. He's got 25 points in his last 11 games in the AJHL. Now that's for a rookie, 17-year-old. I don't care if it's, that it's not the OHL or the WHL. That's fantastic. He's 5th in AJHL scoring as a rookie. The next guy is not even on the first page. The next rookie, he's like 18 points behind him. So he's by far it's a no-brainer as to who's going to be the rookie of the year in the AJHL this year. And it's Logan Sawyer. Now, I had a look at his goals. He has 22 so far in the AJHL, and we've got 3 clips here, and they're pretty outstanding. And I have not seen a goal like this since maybe The Shift by Jonathan Drouin back in, as we were discussing before we came on. But look at
dear Lord.
I mean, that's basically going through the whole team, right? It was just jaw-dropping. Then he almost did the same thing here again. So he's got some dangle. There's certainly some skill there. At the junior A level, it's certainly on display. But I thought we saw it in the World Junior Challenge as well, that he's definitely shifty. He's got good offensive instincts. And I've been impressed. I mean, it's always difficult to peg a guy that's playing in the AJHL because the level is not quite as high as the major junior level. But he played in the Ontario Prep, the same loop as St. Andrews College guys last year. He outscored all the kids like Letourneau and Pridham. He had more points than them playing for Stansted College. Now, they may not have had as tough a schedule, so there's that to factor in. But just when you can compare them to guys who are, fairly highly touted that might be first rounders, he produced at a similar level. And the year before, he's actually from Orangeville, Ontario. So he went out to play in the AJHL, which is a bit of a different route to go. But Brooks is one of the best Tier 2 junior franchises. I mean, that's where Cale Makar played, right? And a lot of other NHL guys. So it's got a good reputation for developing players. He's going to Providence. So just like Pridham, he's going to one of the top U.S. colleges starting next year. So he's highly regarded in that regard, and he'll get great tutelage in Providence. So he's a riser, and wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the day he ends up being a second-round pick somewhere.
All right, that's good stuff from Logan Sawyer, prospect of the week. Now for Habs fans, I think the Habs prospect of the month is a pretty clear-cut choice, and he's a friend of the show now. That'd be Mr. Lane Hutson, who's been tearing it up yet again.
Yeah, we decided to go prospect of the month because he's been away basically, since early December. And here's all his points that he got in the, counting also the exhibition games that he played with the World Juniors. And then also his 3 points from last night. So we're going to show his 2 goals and 11 assists that he got, in 11 games in the past month, which is pretty darn good when
Yeah.
there were people saying, "Oh, he's going to break records at the World Junior and stuff," and that were disappointed that he didn't do so. But I mean, logging I think he averaged 28 minutes a game, and was their best defensive defenseman. We already know what he can do offensively, so for me, it was just highly, highly encouraging that he was given such a prime defensive role, and obviously he prospered because he was on the ice in every critical situation and they won gold. So just kudos to him for a all around great tournament. We could show just all the great defensive plays, and that would have taken more time, and and I will be doing that. I'll be putting up some tapes of him as we go along here throughout the year, including all of his great defensive plays. So the Logan Sawyer videos, by the way, I've got an article that I'm going to be posting later that goes in a little more detail, so you'll be able to see that on the website. But he had a great game against Canada. It was his best, actually. As we'll see in a bit, he checked Owen Beck right in the overtime to get the game winner. But we continue to see just how dynamic he is. Here's the play where he coming up here. Oh no, sorry, there'll be one more. But look at the jukes. Right here.
Boom.
There it is.
Picked him off.
And then we'll just stick her in there. Thank you very much. And Becker thinking, oh, okay, glad he's going to be on my side when we get to it. But then he got a lot of secondary assists in the tournament because he was stealing the pucks in the defensive zone and then getting them up. Mm-hmm. And here he was last night. He comes back and then boom. Didn't score a goal in the World Juniors. Well, how about I just go back to college and I pop one in the 23 minutes in, but back into college. So it didn't take him long to get rolling again. But he had a goal and 2 assists last night, just like he
light work.
Didn't miss a shift, right? Fits right in. Oh, this one, yeah. It's funny. We were talking to him about it. He just dished it. He didn't, he gets a point, but he's off on the bench when it all happens. So he got a point, but he didn't get a plus, which was kind of funny. But that ended her last night. So that was. You run out of superlatives for this kid. It's just, and as we saw in the interview, and he's just a great kid too. It was so nice of him to come on. Considering just how much he's got to get caught up in homework and everything, I'm sure.
That's it. No, great person and fantastic hockey player, well deserving of the title of Habs Prospect of the Month. Again, I think I say this every time we name him, but it's not going to be the last time. Like he's going to come back on the show and we're going to talk about him some more. And at some point, he's not going to be a Habs prospect anymore. He'll be a Habs player. Probably by the end of the season, if reports are correct. I mean, Kent Hughes keeps saying that, he keeps talking as if it's almost a done deal. Like he's going to sign at the end of the year. So expect to see him in the bleu, blanc, rouge pretty soon. That'll get Habs fans pretty excited. Grant, this is always fun talking prospects. I know people love this. So, let's do it again next week. Eh? Let's do it again next week, and then the week after that. But guys, we're rolling on this channel, man. Like, we said that 2024 would be a big year. We weren't lying. We just got Lane Hutson. We got Bob McKenzie lined up. Date yet to be determined, but keep an eye out peeled for that, and plenty more. Okay, listen, we're throwing out some names here that you'll be pretty pumped about. So do yourself a favor and click subscribe so you don't miss anything. We'll give you the best prospect and draft content you can think of, right? Come draft time, we're going to be rolling over here. So we hope you'll be tuning in. And as always, go check out recruits.ca, right? Grant, you teased some articles and videos on there. Great analysis, prospect related, Habs related. It's all on there. What's that?
I always wait until after the World Juniors to get talking to NHL scouts and getting their feedback. They're great. They give me their opinions on all the prospects. And I have an interview with one of them scheduled tomorrow, and we'll delve into a lot of the top prospects and get some great quotes. These guys are, they're friends. They trust me. I keep them anonymous, but they tell it like it is, and we get it right from the horse's mouth from the guys that are in the rinks every day, doing it professionally. And I value their input. I put it's part, along with Rocco's, of course, and what I see. We put it all together to get the rankings and try to, steal a bit from the Bob McKenzie method, which is to poll NHL scouts, and a bit, from us doing all the video scouting and going to games and try to get the best list possible. But there'll be great stuff on the website coming up.
Love it. And the dog loves it too.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you as always for tuning in. Leave us a like, leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and we will see you all next week.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Recruits Draftcast on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.